The Industrial Revolution would not have happened when it did if it were not for the agricultural revolution within Europe starting in the 17th century. The changes that the Netherlands and England made increased the crop yields to support a larger urban population. It also caused a movement of people from the countryside to move to the city and a population boom, so there would be a large and ready workforce for the factories once they would be built and opened. The two nations created a new crop rotation system that focused on selective breeding, created new farm equipment, and made more use of arable lands. The Netherlands even made more land, reclaiming it from the sea. The first area where improvements happened was with crop rotation. The Dutch developed a more extensive use of turnips and clovers to help replenish the soil. England caught on to this, and with the new Norfolk four-course system, which utilized turnips to revitalize the soil, they were able to have their fields have items on it growing instead of lying fallow for a season every few years. This system focused on growing different crops so the nutrients would not be depleted. Charles Turnip Townsend promoted the new method where wheat would be grown in the first year, followed by turnips in the second. The third year would have barley, and the fourth year would focus on ryegrass and clover. Now, one might not suspect that having a clover field is much better than having a bare field, but the system produced plenty of food for cattle and sheep, which then led to an increase in livestock. The rise in livestock numbers in turn created more manure to help fertilize the fields, promoting larger crop yields. This system was used by most farmers in Great Britain by the beginning of the 1800s and was then replicated in continental Europe. With more livestock munching on clovers, Thomas Cook and Robert Bakewell used science to breed animals that had desirable characteristics together. For example, they bred sheep that had long wool and the bone structure that they wanted, and then they inbred them for the next generations to come to solidify the desired traits. He then replicated the process with cattle for beef production and for milk. This, of course, increased the yields for wool and for milk and made, well, I guess, a better steak in the evening. The Tudors started a plan known as the Enclosure movement to increase the amount of land under cultivation when England's population began to grow. This plan continued and grew under the Stuarts. The Enclosure Act was passed by Parliament, and it ended the rights to the common lands that had been instituted for hundreds of years. Common lands were free lands open to the community for use. Some had their livestock graze on the lands, while others would have gardens there to help supplement their food supply. However, this was not a great practice for the general population. When the urban population was growing, they needed more food, and so more land was needed to help support the people that needed food. When the farmers from 3/4 of a village came together and petitioned for an enclosure, the strips of open fields would be joined together to make larger swaths of land for the owners. Next, they would fence or hedge off their property so that it would be known where the border was. Farmers no longer would have various scattered strips throughout the community, but they would have one larger field and could then yield more crops. If a farmer did not have a lot of land, then a larger landowner traditionally bought them out to make the plots large enough for the enclosure. If the farmer would refuse to sell the land, then an act of parliament would be needed before the sale could occur. Enclosures would be finalized when the farmer showed proof of legal ownership of the land, had that land properly been enclosed by a fence or hedge, and had a surveyor map out the actual property lines. When all of this actually happened and was finalized, then the larger plots would be cultivated. Of course, though, the enclosure movements did cause some people to lose their farms and thus move to the cities. New technology helped farmers immensely. Jethro Tull invented a seed drill in 1701 that would help plant seeds into the ground in a uniform line. Farmers would no longer have to scatter seeds across a field and hope for the best. There was now an effective machine that would help plant the crops for them. Tull also invented a horse-drawn hoe that dug up the soil while also pulling up unwanted roots of weeds. So obviously, he helped the agriculture revolution immensely. A threshing machine was invented by Andrew Mickley, who first patented his machine in 1734. This invention removed the outer husks from wheat. This, of course, helped greatly with the harvest, reducing the time and the number of people needed. In the same manner, Eli Whitney's cotton gin, invented in 1794, sped up cotton production as it removed the seeds from cotton. Numerous individuals also modernized plows to assist farmers. Joseph Foljambe started to use interchangeable parts in the 1760s, while Robert Ransom created a cold metal plow that was extremely hard and known to be self-sharpening. The agriculture revolution helped to utilize more land and increase the overall output of crops and goods like wool and beef. With more food available and items available, and with more people moving to the cities, the Industrial Revolution could occur. If you found this information to be helpful, remember to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, leave them down below. Thank you.